So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna tell you about something in a place that I lived for 2 years in South America, because I
Mhm.
actually lived in Chile for 2 years when I was like 19 to 21 ish. And there was a lot of different food down there in Chile. Most people, when I say I lived there, they say, "Oh, well, you must have eaten a lot of Mexican food." At least that's what they say
Rice
here.
and
And
beans.
yeah, a lot of rice and beans and tortillas and stuff like that. And that is not at all what their food was like at all. Um, I could pretty much count on my hand one of 5 things that I would eat while I was there, if I was eating at somebody's house. And that's just because it was a very like Chile was a very urban, like farmer place for a very long time, and so a lot of the food that they had would fill them up all day, and then they'd go out and work. And then sometime in the
Mm.
70s and 80s, the government was kind of revamped, and they got a very good economy, and a lot of new money came in, and so like their entire culture kind of just changed really quickly. And so they
Oh.
still have those traditions of like working on the farm and having food like that. And it was very bland. It was not very flavorful. They used a lot of cilantro, which still to this day I do not like. But they had a candy. They had a candy because we're talking about candy. They had this candy that was
Mm.
called an alfajor. It's kind of a weird word. It's kind of a weird word. Alfajore is what they would call it. And it was
Oh,
just like
good.
it was like a piece of cake, and then they'd put dulce
Mhm.
de leche on the top of it, which is like a caramel, and then they cover it in chocolate. And I remember I had a friend that had lived there, and he loved them. He loved them so much that he took an entire suitcase when he went home and filled it with these things called alfajors. And when he got home, he wrote me a letter back, um, and he said, "Nick, don't do that because they're not as good."
Oh.
Because we've just been in flavorless town for 2 years, so they're not really good. We have way better candy here in the US, so don't do that. Don't take any home. You've been in the desert. And I was just like, oh, I wasn't planning on spending that much money on this candy and taking it home. But yeah, that's one of those funny, yeah, alpha whores. And they also, yeah, and they,
Alpha
yeah, that was,
horse. Mm.
yeah, and they
Not
have
what it sounds like at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
no, and that's, I mean, it's not a, you know, when you speak Spanish, alfajore, like
Mhm.
I don't know where they
Very
came up,
different.
there was a lot of times down there that they would use words in English to just describe things, kind of like here in America, a lot of times we'll just have Japanese words, just random places or, other languages. And they say, hey, we're being creative. We're going to name this, town literally shop in Japanese or whatever. And you're like, we're none the wiser. But they did that a lot down there too. So it's kind of funny.
Amazing. Good stuff. Good story.